'cause I'm home alone, and you know that I'm missing you. You know I've been thinking about this often. All the stress, it might just put me in a coffin, and I just can't decide with all these options. So you know I gotta move with caution. Late nights too high, you've been in my mind. Long ride, nighttime, girl, come by my side, by my side, by my side, by my side, by my side. And we could do what we want. It could be all night long, but I don't wanna get too gone, 'cause I don't wanna do you wrong. Call me on my phone, I'll pick up, 'cause I'm home alone, and you know that I'm missing you. No, I don't need a single thing from you. We go where we want, when we feel like we want to. You know I've been thinking about this often. All the stress, it might just put me in a coffin, and I just can't decide with all these options. So you know I gotta move with caution. Late nights too high, you've been in my mind. Long ride, nighttime, girl, come by my side, by my side, by my side, by my side, by my side. And we could do what we want. It could be all night long, but I don't wanna get too gone, 'cause I don't wanna do you wrong. Call me on my phone, I'll pick up, 'cause I'm home alone, and you know that I'm missing you. Broken glass on the hotel floor, gotta face my past before I end up in your arms, in your arms. I write my thoughts on an empty page, but no matter what I do, I still feel the same in your arms, in your arms. Yeah, I've called and you won't pick up, so tell them that I'm gone and I won't wake up. I asked if you wanted love, I just wanted it to last. Now I'm sitting in a pile of my own glass. The emotions got me insane, feels like I'm losing my mind. We hoped we'd work through the pain, but now we've run out of time. You keep trying to undo me, that won't be my fate. What is life when the money and the fame gone? Broken glass on the hotel floor, gotta face my past before I end up in your arms, in your arms. I write my thoughts on an empty page, but no matter what I do, I still feel the same in your arms, in your arms.
Yeah, for now I sat in a pile of glass, reminiscing about our past and how I was happy then. 'Cause now my thoughts, they run away, and I need a safe place that used to be inside your arms. But nowadays it feels like
You keep trying to run through me, that won't be my fate. What is life when the money and the fame gone? Broken glass on the hotel floor, gotta face my past before I end up in your arms, in your arms. I write my thoughts on an empty page, but no matter what I do, I still feel the same in your arms, in your arms.
I got my hope on full, but my heart's on empty. Don't know what you want, you've been gone and you left me. Give what I got, it's for naught, to the next please. Stuck in my emotions at a loss when you text me. When I'm in, you're out, you gon' take me down. You complain about everything, oh wow, nothing's changed about how you came around. Yeah, always try to blame me while you play around. So tell me what the deal is, tell me what you want, yeah. I can't even give it, I'm all out of love. Thinking that we finished, but then you pulled a card. Look, I'm sorry, but I'm out of here. I think you out alone. Simple little changes, probably all subtle. Notice that you ain't the same, and I'm puzzled. Wonder what it takes, I'm breaking down rubble. I had to switch lanes, I'm safe in my bubble. Look, I don't know what I'm feeling. We back and forth depending. No matter what the weather is, you're never gonna get it. Packing my bags, moving, I'm finished. All out of gas, I've been empty, diminished. I got my hope on full, but my heart's on empty. Don't know what you want, you've been gone and you left me. Give what I got.
I'm the storm that meets the moon. I'm the sun that will not move. Do you think you are? Who do you think you
Welcome everybody to another episode of RSCast, where we're recapping everything that happened in the previous week and looking forward that everything's gonna be happening this week. And you know, I'm accompanied here by Buddha, who's always there, and we got a new, well, I want to say face, new logo here on my side, Stingray for the first time. Buddha, Stingray, how are you guys doing?
Good evening, everyone. I'm doing great tonight, and I hope to be a good replacement for Kingsman, who unfortunately can't be there tonight. I don't know if it has anything to do with a certain master result, but we will know later, and Buddha will tell you. But for now, back to you. How are you tonight?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were asking Davish. I'm great. I'm eating my fish and chips, chilling. I had to hammer down my battered sausage before we started. I sacrificed my chips to get going, all right? But it's going to be a good night. I can already tell you before we get started, there's a lot of upsetting results. Obviously, there's the obvious ones that people already know, but there's loads to get into tonight, Davish.
Yeah, and I also know of a couple big results. I think my franchise suffered a couple. I don't know about your franchise, or Buddha, your franchise Stingray, but you know, let's dive straight into it. Let's go into the results. Let's see what happened. Going obviously first to prospects, and Stingray, I'm gonna give it to you first for what happened in the Glaciers conference.
Well, before we talk about upsets, we have to talk about Serene Taisho, same as every week. Kingsman has probably mentioned them at least 7 times this season. Going 8-0 again, sweeping Carol and Hot Metal, but while Hot Metal didn't have as much luck in their second series, Carol bounced back with a sweep onto Fearless Echo, who unfortunately also get swept in their second series and therefore go 0-8, which continues their negative run of the last few weeks, unfortunately. Then we also have to talk about Terra with a massive 6-2 week, considering how close this conference is, especially in the middle. They're also now 5 games unbeaten and are definitely in the running for a playoff spot.
Yeah, you said that perfectly. Serene Taisho just continuing on their dominant run with the, I think, if I remember correctly, the record being 11-4-1, so really dominant there. And giving it to you, Buddha, for Ignis Conference.
Well, we don't see any absolute dominance, but we still see positive weeks from across the board. We start off with Newborn. I mean, I'm pretty sure I mention them every week at this point. Don't think there's a week where I haven't. They go 5-3. They got their 3-1 victory onto Anubis and a 2-2 draw as well onto Tartarus. Probably not the week that they were looking for, but it's still positive and they're still looking to claim that top 3. But Propel also going 5-3 as well. They got their 3-1 victory of the Dwarfs, followed with a 2-2 onto Tartus again. So Tartus getting a 4-4 week against two, top side table teams. So it's a good week from their behalf, but it does make Propel go positive in their week. And finally, Jabatus going 5-3 as well. They got their 3-1 victory onto Obscurity, then also a 2-2 draw on to Cardinals. And all your other results, well, you can see them for yourselves, but they weren't as, crucial for the standings. But those three teams, looking to stay positive, but we don't see any bang outs of an 8-0, 7-1, or 6-2.
No, like I said, a couple teams going 5-3, most teams just having the same results. And with that, all the results from the last week, the standings must have shifted. And giving it to you first, Stingray, for the standings in Glacis.
Well, we see Serene Taisho with a 7-win gap to second, as they have a 7-1 record against Palmas in their head-to-head record. They basically secure first place with 1 win in the next 8 games, which should be possible at least. Then we go to the third place, and we see a 2-game gap between third and sixth. So this last week will be very interesting between Terra, Caro, Alta, and Tomfoolery. Below that, we see Fearless Echo, who unfortunately dropped down from third in week 7, which is quite a tough one, if you consider they were in playoff spots just 2 weeks ago. And behind them, we see Hot Metal, who don't have a chance anymore, as well as Limousine and Primordial in 9th and 10th.
Yeah, he's said their Serene Taisho probably need, like I said, 1 or 2 more wins, and they've secured themselves for that first seed, and then basically everyone underneath there is still battling it out on who's gonna continue. But now Ignis in their standings also shifted quite a bit. Buddha, what can you tell me about that?
Well, I just finished with fish and chips, so that was quite tasty. Tasty like newborn's position, up in first place. 43 wins. I'll say a 5-3 week. It does mean that the gap up the top has closed a little bit, but they still got a lead by 2 games onto Propel, who will be in second on that 41 mark. The Jabatus in third on 40 in that final playoff spot there. Then Obscurity in fourth with the 37. And then we see a big gap here. If Tartarus somehow could have gone bigger than their 4-4 week, we could potentially see them go for a playoff spot. But unfortunately, that is not going to be the case. 32 wins there in fifth. Anubis in sixth with 31. And then Mosaic will be close behind on 29. Probably they are the only team outside of players who can fight for that spot. Cardinals in 8th with 23, tied there with Livens in 9th as well, and Dwarfs in 10th, also getting a 5-3 week as well, by the way, but they're still going to be in 10th on 21. But the goal difference in the top 4, wow, just wow.
Yeah, like I said, the goal difference is definitely a huge thing, and now that we're slowly going into that final week, I think for the bottom teams, like in the Glaze and in the Ignis Conference, still have a lot to play for. Because, even though you don't make playoffs or play-ins, you can still mess it up for the top teams. And I think in Ignis, Livens and Dwarves are 2 very good teams that both went 5-3 last week. That can have that potential. But first, taking a look at the fixtures for week 9 in Glaze's Conference. Stingray, what matchups did you pick?
First, we have to look at Terra versus Caro. Third versus fourth. I hope we get that on stream somehow. I don't know if we do streams on Tuesday. Otherwise, I'll just stream it myself. We have to get to see this matchup. 1 win separating them and the fight for playoffs. As well, we have Terra matching up against Serene Taisho, so they have a very tough week in front of them, so they need a result against Caro to keep their third spot. As well as Tomfoolery, who play Alta and Fearless Echo, who basically are fighting for the 5th and 6th spot, and for Fearless Echo it will be their last chance to get the playing spot.
Yeah, so a lot of teams battling for that final top 6, and like I said, the matchup between 3rd and 4th is very interesting to see who still can make a run for that, maybe the top 2 ending. But Buddha, giving it to you for Ignis Conference, what matchups did you pick there?
Well, obviously you got... Well, it's the last week. Almost every matchup is important, but the most crucial ones here for this last week is going to be Propel. They play a massive part this week. They'll be playing Obscurity and Jabatus. Obviously, for the standings, both of those sides are below Propel. Jabatus just 1 game behind, and Obscurity a full series behind. So if Propel can just go positive, that should secure them a playoff spot. a higher record that could, result for what seeding, depending how Newborn go. But they've got a relatively, on paper, an easy week, so I don't think they'll be throwing that first place spot. But I could jinx it. Sorry, Stingray. But the other matchup I picked up as well was Tartarus versus Mosaic. It's kind of one of those table fights where it's a team outside of play-ins looking to push through, and a team who is in play-ins for now, but definitely can lose that spot. I believe only 3 games separate these two teams, and one is in play-ins and one isn't as of now. So it's definitely a big matchup there. But other than that, there's just so many matchups where it's top table teams versus bottom table teams. So it's just which top table team can, outdo the other top teams for their results. And, can we see these bottom table teams who can't make play-ins, play that big damage factor?
And Prospect, obviously the tier where the biggest upset results sometimes can happen. But with that, we're going to Challenger, a tier where also a lot of big upset results can happen. And talking about results, first giving it to you, Stingray, for what happened in the Glacies conference.
First, we can talk about the team which probably nobody can jinx at the moment. Oracle's going 7-1 again, 6 wins in a row, but still in 5th place, which we will see in the standings in a bit. At the same time, we have Sirin Yamato winning a game after incredible 11 games without a win. So they probably are happy to get that win back and are trying to bounce back, at least for the last week. But Buddha will probably not be happy about this, but Fearless Esports is still looking for their first game win this week. Fearless Delta going 0-8, as well as their prospect team. So their new Chelly roster is not really working out yet, but we'll hope to see a better result than the last week.
Yeah, you can already... I think Buddha didn't really like that, but we'll get to you, Buddha. What can you tell me about the Ignis conference?
That's fine. I thought getting rid of Kingsman would have healed the insults, but apparently it's just never going to go away. So thank you, Stingray. Remind me to never have you again. I'm joking. But going over to Ignis, Feather going 8-0, and they're not the only team to do it, but we'll start with them first. They get a 4-0 sweep on the Pardus, and then follow through with another sweep on the Kadaho as well. Going into this week, you probably wouldn't even expect that to be an 8-0 week, but they did it, and they solidified their spot for playoffs for sure. But how sure? Well, we'll find out. Don't want to spoil that. But the other team to go 8-0 as well was Orcus. That this was a team that, as of recent weeks, their form has been slipping. So they bounced back with an 8-0. They got their 4-0 sweep onto Pardus as well. So Pardus went 0-8. But they also got their 4-0 sweep onto Kapakli as well. So for Orcus of Feather going 8-0. And then Crusaders going 7-1. 3 teams going big this week. They got their 4-0 sweep onto Impulse. And then followed through with a 3-1 victory onto Cadence as well. But to see 3 teams absolute dominate. Normally you see 2. But we've seen 3 with 2 of them going 8-0.
Yeah, so a lot of dominance here in Challenger in general, and like 2 teams going 8-0 in Ignis is already huge. And curious to see how the standings have changed with that. But first, going to the Glacies conference and Stingray, how did they change?
Not much, to be fair. Disorder and Apprentices going hand in hand in first and second. Mischief staying in third. And Neptunium staying in fourth, as well as Oracles, who also stay in fifth. Oracle's kind of separated in 5th place with 6 games to 4th and 10 games gap to 6th, which is kind of incredible. But at the same time, we can see 6th to 9th still having a chance to get to playoffs, and the last week will be very interesting in that regard. Also, we can look at the goal difference, which we already did in Prospect right now. Incredible. 4 teams on plus 60. Mental.
Yeah, the Apprentices on plus 82. That is just... I don't know how, but like I said, the teams, everyone basically in the top, well, except Fearless, everyone can still make a top 6 run if they have a good week. But now, Buddha, giving it to you, what about the Ignis standings?
Well, one team who has already secured playoffs, and not just playoffs, has secured first place seed from this conference with a 10-game lead. It is Feather in first place. If they just had one more game in the past, they could have gone for that 60. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. But either way, still impressive up there, going for that triple-digit goal difference. But Elves in second. They're going to be on 41 wins. Just 1 win ahead of Eclipse in third. So it's going to be a good fight there to see who could grab that second spot. But Kadaho in fourth could potentially join for that playoff spot depending on results. They're going to be there on 36, but 2 behind them will be Pardus. Despite going 0-8, this could be completely different if they just got some games in. But Orcus in 6th, they'll be in your final play-in spot with their 8-0 week. 31 for them, but just a full series behind them. Crusaders, luckily they went 7-1 because it's made it possible for them to make play-ins. So it's a big clutch from them in week 8. But Impulse in 8th on 26, just one behind. Kapakli in 9th on 20, not going to be able to make play-ins there. Also with Canaans in 10th on 10 wins. We'd love to see the double 10. You know what? You just got rated at that point.
So we have 9 teams in Glacier that can still make the top 6, and we have 8 teams in Ignis that can still make the top 6. So week 9 here is going to be a very interesting one. And with that, let's talk about the fixtures on what will happen here in this final week. And Stingray, going to give it to you first for the matchups from the Glaciers conference.
We definitely have to look at the matchup of the week, or maybe even of the season, which we might see again in playoffs. Disorder versus Apprentices, first versus second. 1 game separating them, and the first seed is incredibly valuable, as everybody knows, with starting 1 game ahead in playoffs. But we also have to look at the Galtvi, who are currently in 6th, but who are playing 2 direct competitors with Masei and Siren Yamato, and if they might have a bad week, they could actually lose their spot again in these 2 matchups. As well, Shrine will have a tough week, even though they're in competition for playing spot. They're playing Mischief and Disorder, which are very tough matchups, but they might cause some upsets there. And Fearless will definitely be looking for a satisfying end to the season. But with Mischief and Neptunium, this will be a very tough week as well.
Yeah, so number 1 against number 2, and a lot of matchups that can change how the 5th and 6th place can end up. So maybe we'll find some on stream here this week to see how all of this changes. But first, before we continue, let's go to the Ignis conference. Buddha, what interesting matchups will be happening there?
Well, we have Orcus with a big week for themselves. They've just come off an 8-0 week, so the momentum's there. But they will play Impulse, which a little bit further behind. But if they beat Impulse, they'll pretty much completely end the play-in run for the Impulse side. But Orcus also play Crusaders as well, who also went on a 7-1 tear of a week. And Crusaders are just a full series behind Orcus. So Orcus, they're playing 2 teams that are the only teams to contest for Orcus's play-in spot. So Orcus have got a massive week to claim their play-ins and potentially maybe move up for a higher seeding depending on other teams' results, as they are a little bit behind of the approaching teams above them. But also, we're going to have Eclipse versus Kadaho. A full series separates the 2, but it's 3rd versus 4th. This is for the playoff spot. If Kadaho want to contend for a playoff spot by the seeding, they need to beat Eclipse. There's no, let's just draw. You probably need to win that because Eclipse also play Crusaders. On paper, they should get games, which that's all they would need. But Crusaders have been on form, so you do never know. You could potentially see Crusaders climb on through if they find their result onto Orcus. But other than that, just like the other tier, it's mostly just top table teams facing the bottom teams. I think Elves play Pardus, which could be a good matchup. Obviously, it's not going to affect both teams compared to each other, but for Pardus, they definitely got to bounce back. In their last 5 series, Pardus have lost 4 and drawn 1. So for Pardus, it's a big bounce back week to keep playing.
Yeah, and I think for Pardus, I think they have at least one matchup that they can use to kind of bounce back, and it's going to be against Canaans. Just them being in 10th spot, it's a very good opportunity. But that was Challenger. Let's move on towards Rival as we're slowly climbing up the tiers. And Stingray, gonna throw it straight to you for the Glaciers conference.
In Rival, Fearless, Charlie, and especially Bailey, who was stepping up in the series against Montpellier, doing Buddha proud with a 5-3 week. And the bounce back after a few tough weeks before that, with also some FF losses, but that's behind them. They've got their wins. They've gotten positive. At the same time, no team was winning both of their games. Very close series. A lot of draws at the same time, but also teams winning one series and losing another one. Journeyman going 3-5 after being first last week. So giving Serene Meiji and Uranium the chance to bounce back, which we will see in the standings and how that affects them. Anarchy, also with a strong week, we have to point that out, with a 4-0 sweep onto Mystics, which was kind of unexpected, so a big setback for them. But also with a draw on Sanctum, so they might be pushing for that 6th spot in the last week.
Yeah, so Anarchy having a really good week, like you said. Some teams getting a draw, some teams getting a loss, but let's see how the standings will change. But first, Buddha, what can you tell me about the Ignis results?
Well, I'd love to tell you, but well, we've got the leak of the standings for Glaciers. I was going to say you'll see on your screen the results of, well, but not the results now. But do we just go over the standings, or what? Now I'm lost.
Well, we'll let you talk a little bit longer when we are on the Ignis standings. First, Stingray, throwing it straight back to you for Glaciers. What?
Yeah,
can you
look
tell me
at
about
those
these
top
standings?
3. This will be very interesting in the last 2 weeks, which we will also see in the fixtures. 1 game separating first and third. As we can see, Journeyman dropping down from first to third with their kind of bad week, and Uranum being the benefactors, running into first. In fourth, we can see the second Visionary team a bit separated. 1 series to third and 5 wins to fifth. So if they don't have a abysmal or incredible week with going 8-0-8, they should be secured in that 4th spot for the last week. Behind them, we can see Europa and Mirage tied on 31, 3 games behind them. Anarchy after a strong week, keeping their chance on planes. And mathematically, 8th to 10th are still in the running, but as we have some direct matchups against each other, it's very unlikely that anyone will make the push for 6th.
So, the standings for Glaciers, some teams can still make it, some teams can. It's going to be very interesting, and we'll get to the fixtures in a bit. First, Ignis Conference. Buddha, I'm just going to give it straight to you. Talk about the results, talk about the standings. You have everything until you're done.
Alright, well, my prepared speech was, look at the screen, every result was 3-1 but 1. Those of you can't see that. But as I said, every series was a 3-1 but 1 series. We had Onka go 6-2, they got their 3-1 onto Ash, 3-1 onto Tizok. Sentinels went 6-2, got their 3-1 onto Tizok as well, and a 3-1 onto Continuum. Nightfall went 6-2, 3-1 on Caligo, 3-1 onto Norns. And obviously, they mentioned Tizok going 2-6, finding 2 of their 3 losses this season in 1 week, and probably a crucial week as well, as we are approaching, that playoff period. But here are the standings. Tizok going 2-6. They will hold first, but they could have pretty much secured first if they had a good week. But instead, we'll see Onka in second, just 2 games behind, fighting for that first seed. But Sentinels in third. They will be 6 games behind to climb, but hey, still possible. Continuum will be in 4th for that 34, just a couple behind, but a couple behind them will be Nightfall in 5th, Caligo in 6th for 29, just a few behind, but Norns, Erebos, Raiju, and Ash can still all fight and play for that play-in spot. Potentially, probably you could just say there's 1 spot on the line, as I don't see Nightfall completely throwing, but hey, anything can happen, so there could be two spots up for grabs, but either way, what a standings here for the rival Ignis. Every team can still make play-ins.
So in Rival, every team can make players. Because we saw the same thing in Glaciers. Even though the differences were there a little bit bigger, everything is still possible here in Rival Tier. And now let's talk about the matchups that will happen. Stingray, giving it to you first. What standing-changing matchups have you picked for Glaciers?
Well, it seems to be a reoccurring theme. First versus second, Serene Meiji versus Uranum. Which will be a very interesting matchup, especially when you look at what Journeyman has to offer. They are playing Mystics, who are quite far away from them, but with a sweep, they could actually clinch 3rd place, so they need a massive week. Playing their second game against Yoruba this week, which is also a tough matchup. At the same time, we have a lot of bottom versus top matchups, so bottom teams can definitely cause some upsets and throw the table around.
Alright, a lot of interesting matchups happening for Glaciers that, like I said, can change the top. And now, Buddha, giving it to you, what matchup did you pick for Ignis?
Oh, this is going to be very, very boring, but you can't fault me for this. Pretty much every matchup. 10th place is 5 games behind 6th. And there's no matchup where it's first, second. There's no very close matchup at all. There's just like little gaps. For example, I believe Onka, they will play the side of Continuum. That's probably the closest matchup within standings. But on the standings, they have an 8-game gap. Like, every series is going to matter a lot. Obviously, for Tizok and Onka, they're pretty much just battling for that first seed. So for Tizok, it's just to go big and bounce back. For Onka, obviously, they have to obviously outdo Tizok's results. So they do have a big week ahead of them. Obviously, just mainly for Caligo, Norns, and Erebos, literally every individual game counts. Caligo and Norns, they both play Tizok. They're playing the top team, but they have come off 2 losses. So we'll see how that plays out.
So a battle for first seed and a lot of battles for who will make the top 6 in the end. And that was Rival moving up straight away to Elite. Stingray giving it to, again, first to you for the Glaciers Conference for what happened in the previous week.
Well, for Elite, we definitely have to look at the teams with the most interesting roster changes, to say the least. With Temple dropping form and picking up Wolfie, as well as Bladesmith picking up form after he got dropped, who go 4-4 with 2 draws, while Temple go 5-3 with a positive week. At the same time, we have Zulu and Anju with a strong 6-2 week, so Zulu can definitely fight for those top 3 spots where they are currently in and are trying to defend that, as well as Anju, who clinched their 6th place spot right now and might be good for Plains.
Yeah, so one team, or a lot of teams, might still be in that run for the top 6, but at least one that might have clinched it. Now, Buddha, giving it to you before we move on for the Ignis conference.
Well, to start it off, it's going to be Thanatos. They don't go 8-0, but it's a 7-1. They got their 4-0 sweep onto Carbo. And there's some comments about that earlier. Tavish? No?
No. We don't go there. We don't go there.
We don't go there. Okay. Swiftly moving on. A 3-1 victory as well onto Velocity. So that did add up to their 7-1 week. So for Thanatos, it's good for them. It's Kotal as well. They went 5-3. They got their 3-1 victory onto Darkness and a 2-2 onto Scorch, which going into the week, definitely a matchup where they needed games. For me personally, on paper, I'd say 5-3 for its Kotal. Probably not a good week for me personally. I feel like they should have got more than that, but hey ho, I don't know the situation. Maybe there's sub, maybe it was FAs. But some other matchups to talk about. We saw Tigris and Holdra. They both swept their first series. Holdra swept Darkness. Tigris versus Embry. Pretty much expected. And then they played each other and got a 2-2. Woohoo! We love 2-2s on first, second. Come on, guys. Make it interesting. But either way, a 2-2 on first or second, it is kind of expected. You always expect a draw when it's the 2 top teams. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much what I got.
Alright, yeah, like I said, boring result with the top 2 battling out against each other. And now let's move to the standings. Stingray, what can you tell me about the Glaciers conference?
Well, we can definitely see the difference between in-form and not in-form teams at the moment. We have 4 teams being unbeaten in 5 games, which are Prophets, Bladesmiths, Zulu, and Fearless Bravo. But let's get to the table first. Fearless Bravo and Temple being drawn in first place, which will be very interesting in a bit when we look at the fixtures. Then we have Zulu separated from 3 games from 2nd and 4th. They separated themselves from Deception with their strong week, but from their 4th to 6th within 2 wins. Will be very interesting to see who clinches that 4th spot in the last week, and maybe Prophets, who are on the rise, as I said. 5 games without a loss, but also 4 draws. They are copying RSC 11 Prophets with Wolfie on there back then, but they still might have a chance to make Plains. While Serena Zucchi is, because of head-to-head, a bit out of the play, because they need an 8-0 weekend Anju to lose every game, which will probably not happen, while Severance and Saturnia are officially out of play.
Yeah, Severance, Saturnia, 9th and 10th might be out, but Serena Zucchi, never say never. miracles can happen here. Don't say they will happen, but it can. And it all depends on their fixtures. But first, Ignis Conference, Buddha, giving it to you.
Yeah, I'll happily say never. But moving on to Ignis. First place is going to be Tigris. We don't see a first place tie, but we do see Tigris on top. 42 wins, only 2 ahead of Holdra, who will be in second. So it'll be a good fight in that final week. But Vanguards, they're going to be joining in for that as well. We could see this top 3 potentially move about for seeding. Vanguards are third on 38, but 3 behind them. It's Kotal in 4th with a 5-3 week. Could have been a bit more closer for playoffs if they could have got some better results. But Carbo in 5th on 34, just 1 game behind, but a full series behind Carbo. It is going to be Velocity in 6th, holding that final play-in spot. Just 1 game behind them is Scorch and Thanatos. Just makes you think Thanatos going 7-1. That was a huge clutch up for them. It keeps their play-in's hopes alive. And just 1 game behind, anything can happen there. But Embry, pretty much out of play-ins. I don't think they're going to go 8-0. And then Velocity, yeah. Embry is gone. I'm sorry, GG. But 22 wins for them. Darkness in 10th on 21. Both of those sides would just be playing for a little bit of upsets, a little bit of damage, and finish the season on a high potentially.
Yeah, I think they'll mostly, same as in the other conference, 9th and 10th are basically just playing damage at this point, which is always a fun thing to do. You cannot make it, but you can always make sure other teams can also not make it. And with that, let's see if we have some beautiful damage matchups happening. First, giving it to you, Stingray, again for Glacis.
3 times the charms, you can't really make that up. Temple versus Fearless Bravo, first versus second again. I hope we see that on stream. Will be a funny matchup, to be fair. To see Wolfie on stream playing against Buddha. We also have Prophets versus Anjou. With a good result, Prophets can definitely clinch playoffs. They're currently 3 wins behind in a direct matchup. That is totally possible. At the same time, we have Bladesmith with the opportunity to either drop or rise from their currently 5th spot, because they're playing 3rd and 6th with Anjou and Zulu. Both teams on a great win streak and also on great form, with all 3 of them not losing a game in their last 5 games. So this will be a very interesting matchup, which streak gets lost, or if they just draw twice again.
Like you said, 3 times in a row. 3 times in the Glaze Conference, we have a first against second seed. Maybe we'll see 1 of the 3 on stream. Who knows? But we also have the Ignis Conference. Buddha, giving it to you.
Now we've got some big matchups in Ignis. It's not first versus second, but there's still some big matchups. We've got Vanguards playing 2 huge series. They play Holdra, and they'll also play the side of Tigris. They're playing first and second. Vanguards can potentially go for first or second, depending on their results. So Vanguards, it's all in your hands. If you want that first place spot, you can go get it. Just win both your series. Easier said than done. But Holdra, obviously after Vanguards, they do have to play It's Kotal. That's still another tough matchup. That is second versus 4th. 5 games does separate the 2, but still, It's Kotal have proven to have some worth for a top three spot. So potentially an upset could happen there. But Tigris, after their matchup on Vanguards, they'll also be playing Thanatos, who've just come off a 7-1 week. And they've won 3 series out of their last 5, only losing 1 as well. So Thanatos could potentially, scrape the top 3 a little bit. Well, not Thanatos going to top 3. I mean, shift top 3 about by taking it. Yeah. Anyway, but a waffle. That's how it is. But looking around the play-in spot, obviously Velocity, Scorch, and Thanatos, it's just both of their games at this point. As we mentioned earlier, Velocity in 6th on 30, Thanatos in 8th on 29. Every individual game is going to count for all of these 3 teams in both of their matchups.
Yeah, so 3 teams really battling it out on who can get the best seed. And that is it for Elite. We're moving up to almost the highest tier, just 1 more above there. But we're moving on to Master. And I can think there are a lot of interesting results happening here as well. First, going to Glacis, giving it to you, Stingray.
First, we have to look at the last week's first place, Dogon. Surprisingly going 3-5, drawing against Iovi and losing their game against Illusion. Who at the same time go 7-1 with a 4-0 sweep onto Heck. Phoenix also on the rise with 5 wins in a row now, going 3-1 against Sirinara, but also with an for a sweep onto Heck. Dominion, who we see in the standings right now, rises because of Dogon's loss this week. Get a draw and a 4-0, to be fair, FF win against Heck. But we will be seeing how that changes the standings, because some stuff got definitely mixed up this week.
Yeah, before we get there, first, the Ignis conference. Buddha, what can you tell me?
Well, I can tell you for the death's sake, the reason Kingsman isn't here is because Draugr got swept by a team that just got their first victory all season long. Just a little bonus. I believe this was on stream as well, so if you're the players on that Draugr roster, you definitely feel a bit humiliated, but they are a top table team. I'm sure they'll reform, bounce back, and just goldfish memory it. But other than that, Gladiators, congratulations. You got your first season win, and it was against one of the top teams. So fair play. But moving on, Abyss, they go 6-2. They got their 4-0 sweep onto Leo, then a 2-2 draw onto Infinity. So that's a good round-up week for them. Then Transcend go 5-3 with a good result as well. They got their 3-1 victory onto Nox. Obviously, I'm not saying surprising as in, they can't do it, but Nox have been, a top table team all season. So for Transcend, it's a good result. But they also got a 2-2 draw onto Leo as well, so potentially could have gone big there. But Montezuma, they go 5-3 as well. They got their 3-1 victory onto Gladiators. They did what Draugr couldn't. Then they also got a 2-2 draw onto Fenrir as well. So for Montezuma, they're just holding in from their recent form from the past couple of weeks. But a positive week is going to be good for them.
So Montezuma having a good week. Gladiators, like I said, getting their first win against Draugr as well, which is a big result. And Nox losing against Transcend. Might have shifted the standings, don't know for sure. But let's move there. And obviously, first, Glacies, as always, as we see the standings rolling in. Stingray, gonna give it to you.
As I already said, we can see Dominion profiting from Dogon and IOV having a negative week. IOV, after a 3-game win streak, now drawing and losing their games, so they drop down to 3rd, Dominion rising to 1st. We can also see Phoenix rising up to 4th, as well as Illusion, who also rise up. The arrows are a bit wrong there. With Messiahs dropping down to 6th, tied on 31 wins with Haven, which will be very interesting to see in the last week, in that fight for the 6th spot. But Fearless Alpha and Serenara are still with small, or at least reasonable chances to clinch that 6th spot if Messiahs and Haven end up with a bad week. Heck, unfortunately, with 2 forfeit wins in their last 5 games, out of contention for play-ins. But they will try to get some upsets in the last week, or at least try to play their games.
Yeah, Heck might be out, but they still have a very good damage roll to play here in the Glacies conference. And, just the bottom teams are still there in contention to actually make the top 6. But now, Buddha, giving it to you for the Ignis standings.
Well, with both teams losing, it has still made the top 2 close. Nox will be holding first still. And just think that one game that it got on Transcend has given them that 1-game lead onto Draugr. Draugr in second on 44, so both sides will be fighting for that first spot in this final week. And I believe they've already played each other twice this season, so we won't see that matchup. But Abyss will be in third. With their positive week, realistically, it makes second possible, but probably not. But they'll be just looking to secure the playoff spot. But they do have Transcend just behind 1 game. They're in 4th, and then Hades in 5th on the 33. A little bit behind to chase up, but they're still going to be holding for a play-in spot with Infinity, who will be in 6th place with 32. And then we see a bit of a gap, but Montezuma, they've just come off a positive week, and because of that, play-ins is possible, but it is 5 games behind, and with their record of only winning 4 series this season, their head-to-head on other teams probably isn't the greatest, so they definitely have to go big. Same here for Fenrir as well in 8th, but then we'll see Leo in 9th on 24, who pretty much won't make play-ins, because I'm pretty sure Infinity will grab 1 game, or the other teams will, and then Gladiators in 10th. They're on 15, but they beat Draugr. They didn't just beat them, they swept them.
Yeah, so Gladiator, same as Heck, being in that spot to do a lot of damage to teams. And already showed it to Draugr, so maybe they can do it here as well. If we're going to be looking at the fixtures for this final week that's coming up. Well, that's actually already started. And Stingray, what matchups did you pick for Glacies?
I am probably repeating myself, but we go 4 out of 5. Dogon versus Dominion, first versus second for the 4th time tonight. Still a 1-game difference as well as in the other case. But we also have to look at Messiahs and Haven, who are fighting for that plane spot. Messiahs and Haven both playing against Phoenix, which will be a very tough matchup and also decide their fate. But their second series, Messiahs is playing IOV, who are currently in 3rd, while Haven has to play Heck, who are currently in last and have lost their last 7 series, if I'm correct. So they should be fine if they play a good series, but Heck also has massive upset potential this week. So we'll be looking forward to that. As well as IOV, clinching first place if Dogon and Dominion take games off of each other in their direct matchup.
So Heck being in a very good position here to do a lot of damage. And like I said, another conference where we have first against second. And with that, we're going to be looking at Ignis Conference, giving it to you, Buddha.
Well, one of the matchups I was going to pick, there is a result. Leo versus Fenrir, as Mox has mentioned. Leo swept Fenrir, which, by the way, it completely rules out Fenrir for making play-ins. They are completely out now. Fenrir cannot make play-ins after losing 4-0 to Leo. Leo, I mean, they can only make play-ins if Infinity go 0-8, which I don't think will happen. But by looking at the matchups, obviously we don't see first versus second, but we will see Draugr versus Abyss. There is a 7-game gap, I believe, between the two. So if Draugr just take 1 game onto Abyss, they will 100% secure top 2. But obviously, I don't think Draugr are looking for that. They're looking for first place, so they'll be looking to get what they can. But they will also be playing Transcend, who did beat Nox. So for Draugr, it is a tough week. They're playing 3rd and 4th, so for Nox here, they're probably looking at a great opportunity to potentially hold first, but Nox will play Montezuma and Gladiators. Obviously, Montezuma, not the best recent form, but they've come off a good week. And obviously, for the side of Gladiators, I mean, hey, they've got 1 series win, but they beat Draugr, so Nox, don't get too confident. But other than that, we see so many mid-table matchups that are so crucial. We see Infinity. They'll obviously before I found out about the series, Infinity and Fenrir was a very big one, but it's still as big for Infinity because they also play Transcend as well, which Infinity could potentially take 4th spot if they find a victory on the Transcend. But other than that, we'll see Hades as well. They'll be playing Abyss, which is a 4-game gap. But for Hades, it'll be looking to hold play-ins with a result there.
Yeah, so like you said, a lot of mid-table matchups happening here, and I'm definitely keeping my eye here on Gladiators if they can get their 2nd win, because if they beat the number 2 seed in the conference, maybe they can also beat the number 1 seed. Only time will tell. And now we're going to be moving to the highest tier here within the RSC. We're going to Premier to the results of last week. Stingray, gonna throw to you first for Glacies.
Well, we only have 2 results out of 4, but those 2 are, let's say, business as usual. Symbiotes winning their game, Team Husky winning their game. Both are on a winning streak of at least 4. Symbiotes haven't lost or drawn a game this season, so I'll just give it back to you.
Yeah, it's a usual thing that Premier normally has to catch up a little bit on their series, but still, Symbiotes, Team Husky showing their dominance. Team Husky a little bit more dominant here with their sweep, but well, we have 3 results on the Ignis Conference, Buddha, so you have a little bit more to talk about.
Yeah, I would love to say that, but it's pretty much just FFs. So I'm trying to find out which ones exactly so I can have an accurate reading. I think Centurions and Shaman is a legit 4-0. I have to look through the results because obviously the spreadsheet's behind. Yeah, Centurions did actually sweep Shaman, so that is a legitimate sweep there. I do know that RQS have forfeited losses series. It's a whole mumbo jumbo. I know there's FS, but let's just assume they're 4-0s, okay? Ox Gaming onto
Sure.
Kronos, I think that was legit as well. I think it might be the RQS one that is an FF. But Ox Gaming with a 4-0, that's a big result for them. Obviously, don't want to ruin the standings, but going into this week, that was probably one of the matchups to watch just because of the standings. And obviously, Centurions and Shaman, I mean, that was just a good matchup. I think before the week started, they were both very, very close within each other in the table. So a big 4-0 is massive.
Yeah, so 4 4-0s here in the Premier. first going to be looking at Glaci's standings to see how they've changed, giving it to you, Stingray.
Well, we can still see Symbiotes obviously in first with their 6 wins out of 6 games. Behind them, Team Husky on 18 wins. Then we have quite of a gap, but we have to consider Feliday has still a game in hand if they play it at some point. Behind them, Soul is at 10. To say top 4 are important for playoffs in Premier. We can see Division behind them with 8 games in hand in comparison to Solus and only 3 wins behind, so they definitely have a chance to get there. And even Fearless Esports, who are currently in 8th, with 8 games in hand, still have a chance to make top 4 in the end.
And this is kind of the usual thing we see at Premier. Some teams already at the top, they solidified themselves, but a lot of teams still have a lot of games in hand that they can use to climb the ladder. So we have to wait a little bit and see what the actual Premier standings are, but at least Symbiotes and Team Husky have secured themselves in a very good top 2. But now, Buddha, giving it to you for Ignis.
Well, luckily for me, I'm just 1 game behind in Ignis. RSC Esports, they'll be in first with 16. Obviously, only a 1 game clear though. Centurions in second. After that 4-0 sweep, they do climb up into second. But you see what I mean? Before that result, they were literally 2 games behind Shaman Esports. So that was a big sweep for them to climb up to second. Forge in third with 13. They'll be tied there with Shaman Esports in that 4th spot. Obviously, Forge, they do have that series in hand, so they could potentially take a first place spot if they find a really good result. But following forward, we have Ox Gaming in 5th on 11, but just a couple behind them, Domination in 6th. They'll be on 9 with their series in hand as well, so they potentially could, push through for that top 4 spot. Momentum in 7th with 8, and then Kronos in 8th with 7. Kronos just struggling to find their first series win, but Momentum, obviously, they just got their first win the week before, and then the FF lost. So Momentum, you lost your momentum.
Yeah, they might have, but here we don't have that many series in hand, so these standings are a little bit more solidified. And actually everyone is still pretty close to each other, so a lot can happen. And now we're gonna look at the fixtures for this final week, and Stingray, gonna give it to you first.
We actually have 3 games scheduled this week, which is a kind of good rate. We also have Symbiotes versus Team Husky, obviously the first versus second matchup. And I've done some live research right now, and I think they have drawn. So They went 2-2. Feliday versus Visionary will be a very interesting matchup, because Feliday has the chance to keep their third spot and also maybe even go into top 2. But Visionary also has the chance to get closer to top 4, which will obviously be very important for them. Team Serene versus Fearless Esports, both having games in hand, will have the chance to get into top 4, and Solus versus Division hasn't been scheduled yet. I hope it gets played before playoffs, otherwise we won't see how the standings change in that regard.
Yeah, let's hope they play everything in this week so we can have good talk about standings next week. But like you said, Symbiotes, Team Husky, they already played their series and it went 2-2. But yeah, French standings already on there. But Buddha, quickly going back to you, what about the matchups for the Ignis conference?
Well, also we have RQS and Centurions both playing for that first seed spot. I believe we are going to see RQS Esports versus Domination. On paper, RQS should take that one realistically. But Centurions, they'll play Kronos. So both sides, they do have on paper an easy matchup to fight for that first place spot. We also have Forge versus Shaman Esports, which is a great mid-table fight. Both teams are on 13 wins, so the winner will obviously take the higher end of the table. And then finally, I believe the final matchup is going to be Ox Gaming versus Momentum, which is another, not mid-table, but they're both right next to each other. So we've got some good matchups here for the Ignis conference.
Yeah, and that was everything for all the tiers. Now, French's standings were already on there, so you could already see them. But Stingray, gonna give the bottom 10 to you. Quickly, walk me through it.
We have Ox Gaming in 20th with a 20-game gap to 19th. Where we have 4 Templar, who went 25-15 with a great week actually, but they stay in 19th with 1 game behind Fearless Esports and 1 game respectively between Luna Esports and ESQ. And we have quite a gap to Might of Hades in 15th, Sanctuary, Symbiotes in 13th, Azteca Esports in 12th, and also Team Serene, who rise up to 11th, as well as Fort Templar with a great 25 in 15 week.
Yeah, a lot of movement here as well, and some big gaps. So, Buddha, what will happen in the top 10?
What will happen? Well, not Fearless Esports. Well, Shaman Esports in 10th, 166 wins. Just one game ahead of them is two teams. In 9th place, it will be Momentum, but that little 14 goal difference. But Shadow Esports in 8th with 167 with their 69 goal difference. Oh, what a funny number, hey chat. But in 7th, we're going to see Visionary on 170 with a little bit of a gap there. 3 behind and 3 in front. It's going to be Valkyrie Knights in 6th. I can't even talk. 6th. There we go. 173 wins, but 2 ahead. Illusory still holding in the top half. Dropped down a little bit, but I'm sure they're still going to be happy with their season. 175 wins. Just 4 ahead of them. We'll see Forge in 4th. 179 tied with Green Phoenix, who will be in 3rd. And just 1 ahead of them is Systema Solaris in 2nd, 180. Now, the gap has closed and closed week by week, but still, your number 1 franchise is Panthera Esports. 182 wins for the franchise. 2 goal difference and 2 games separates 1st and 2nd. This week 9 is literally a battle for these franchises, especially for those teams, looking to take that spot as well. Green Phoenix, Forge, Illusory, Valkyrie Knights, and potentially Visionary as well.
Yeah, and one thing I find really amazing is that, like I said, the gap between Panthera and Systema Solaris, it's slowly shrinking. Because I remember Panthera being like 20 games away from the 2nd seed, and now it's like 2 or 3. So it's definitely slowly moving down. But, we talked about results, we talked about standings, we talked about fixtures, we talked about all the franchises, and we had a lot of results to recap. But with that, obviously, you also have some beautiful clips and some beautiful fills. So, without further ado, let's just roll the tape for clip of the week. Let's see what mechanical masterminds we have here within the RSC. And then, well, we're gonna see who you think is the best one.
That's what I'm doing. I'm panning perfect.
Alright,
Man, what a lot of beautiful clips, and definitely I've gotta say, GSI with beautiful mechanics, and Hexus in the end with a lot of fake to his name, and then just, rolling it in without effort. But, what I gotta say for you for last year, Stingray, what did you think?
I have to give this one to GCI this week. I mean, we have to think he's a challenger player. We've also seen Milner's goal, which was great, but he's one of the best players in Master at the moment, and GCI with that clip, if you showed him without the name, I would think that was Master easily, so I'll have to give it to him this week.
Alright, Buddha, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with GCI, but I gotta give a little shout out to Hexos as well. I'm just saying, I saw that clip on TikTok, I believe, or it might have been Twitter. Can't believe, I've seen it before it came in. So just saying, I'm a real fan, but it was well done there by Hexos as well. It's not like the crazy mechanical plays. It's just some nice ground play, some good fakes, and you love to see some different style of clips here on Clip of the Week. But obviously JPEG and Milne both coming out with good clips as well. But I think GCI is probably the one that's going to win it.
And quickly looking at the votes, Jisha is looking really solid. And I gotta agree, Jisha definitely did a great job. But Hexos, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, prospect player just faking out everyone and then just doing it really casual because he didn't really look stressed. He was full control. So credits to him for actually doing it. And obviously JPEG Milne, beautiful shots there as well. But let's just roll the tape again. Let's see what. Let's just roll again. I'm struggling here with my words. Please save me at this point. Let's take a look at the clips.
That's all I'm doing. I'm hiding purple.
Alright,
And there we saw it again, and congrats to GCI for making, well, actually just taking clip of the week here, beautifully done. Just, taking control, flip, reset to catch, and then immediately uses his flip to grab it towards the back of the net. But, we have clip of the week, we also have fail of the week, because not everyone here can shine with their pure mechanics. Some make own goals, don't hit the ball, whiff completely, just however you want to call it. Let's roll the tape, let's see what happened in this last week. Yeah, I agree with how Buddha is sitting at this point. I don't know. I think I speak for all three of us. We thought it was Prospect a challenger, but it's apparently rival. Hunter Sam losing a challenge, Evelio's whiffing the ball, and then Dexy own goals at that point. Stingray, Buddha, any thoughts, or just want to continue to weekly awards?
Well, this definitely reminded me of the days in Season 7 when I played with him in Prospect, but definitely something you wouldn't expect in Rival, but also something that would happen to me every second game, so nothing I should laugh about.
You, Buddha, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the second I saw that car, I just knew, just give the award. Just no words at this point.
Yeah, well, it's, congratulations, condolences, you're welcome, however you want to see it. I don't know, should we give it to Evelio's, Dexy, just the entire team at that point, but you won clip of the week, so round of applause to you, maybe? Let's just continue to the weekly awards, since we do have a lot to go through. We have all the tiers and we have team of the week. So let's go straight into it. Prospect and Stingray, gonna give it to you.
Well, we start off with the first player of the Terra roster, Moro DK, on 534.5 points as the MVP, as well as Robbo, who was probably assisting him in winning those games in those 60 a week, with 1.75 goals per game. Same as Moro, actually. both Terra players in first and second as finisher. Muchuk as the striker with 66.67% shooting percentage. To go, probably, I don't know, 1.63 assists per game as the playmaker. Tiger. I thought he was French, but that works. And then we have Manrush with 2.38 saves per game as the savior this week.
I can see French in Tiger as well, but like I said, that is prospect. But when the sheet loads, gonna give it to you for challenger.
Oh, it sounds like something else. Your MVP, Shiny, 540 points per game. Your finisher as well, 1.88 goals per game as well. Shiny shining up in gold. But your striker, Sammy Boy, 58.33% shooting accuracy. Shiny! He does it again! The 3-time. He is your playmaker as well, 1.63 assists per game. But your savior, it's a pretty pog one. It's Pogo. 2.5 saves per game. Mr. Fool coming in close within second.
Yeah.
We continue with Rival, but we actually see a challenger player as the MVP of the week, Elusive, from the Cadejo roster. Probably subbing up and also winning their series. It was, as I've been told in chat, the same series that GCI scored that great goal. So, great series for them. We see Lukas with 1.63 goals per game as the finisher. Solskjaer with 75% shooting percentage as the striker. Yo, 1.38 goals per assists per game as the playmaker. And myself with 2.88 saves per game. I'm just sitting in net and losing 1-7, but that's fine. I got my savior award.
Imagine getting the savior award and also giving it to yourself live on RSCast. I think no one actually can do that, but I can't stay with you for Elite.
Well, your MVP is going to be Mamba, almost 500, 499.25 points per game, but he's your finisher as well with the 1.88 goals per game. Your striker, Ethereal, 66.67% accuracy. Your playmaker is Trax with 1.25 assists per game, three-way tie. You said only one person can give themselves their Savior Award. Well, I will as well. 3 saves per game. Buddha. And I didn't even lose. It was a 2-2. I'll take that. 3 saves per game.
Oh man, the RSCast hosts giving themselves the award as if it was nothing. But we continue with Master. We see Jushu with 522 points per game, just getting it from Link with 519, who was also the finisher with 2.38 goals per game. Incredible, actually. But then we see finally Vink getting his award at the striker with 56.25% shooting percentage. Then a one person we probably see every week on this award, Bowler, 1.5 assists per game, nothing usual, nothing out of the ordinary. And Sentry from Fearless Alpha with 2.5 saves per game as the savior this week.
Well, move on to Premier. Just a reminder, only one series a week here in Premier. But Ols MVP, 570.25 points per game. And your finisher is going to be Smashy with 2 goals per game. But your striker is going to be Hodge, 50% shooting accuracy, 3-way tie there with Berserk and Revo. But your playmaker, Flaku, with 1.75 assists per game. But your savior, he's here again. It's Ols, 2.5 saves per game. It's going to be collecting 2 awards here for this week in Premier.
Yeah. And with that, continuing to Team of the Week, Stingray, I'm gonna let you continue this one.
We have another reoccurring theme, Hunter RV, again, getting the Team of the Week after the 8 a week for Sirin Taisho. Sam Dusk, also after 8 a week for Orcus. As well as Cull in Rival for Nightfall, Dash for Haldra in Elite, Tommy D 27 for Illusion in Master, and I unfortunately can't read that, Aza in Premier for the Centurions.
There you have it. The Team of the Week, the award, the weekly awards, everything. And well, this is for me the first time actually that I had the two my two co-casts here giving an award to themselves, which is, I don't know, how does it feel for you guys to get, give it to yourself?
Well, I would have rather liked to win my series, but it's fine.
Alright, well, with that, we're gonna continue to the Fantasy Award, the Fantasy Weekly Leaderboards. Buddha, giving this one to you.
Well, going for the Fantasy League first. Obviously, your weekly top 3 is going to be Mox in first with just over 1,400 points there. Cute gaff meow. But for your overall leaderboard, it's going to be Arch with 7,497, just a little bit ahead of Mox there, almost going for another first place. But your weekly top tier managers, it's going to be Halo in Premier, Maurice in Master, Kingsman in Elite, Mr. Efficiency in Rival as well, and then Shattered Fusion for Challenger and Mox in Prospect. Nice to see Kingsman win something in his tier. But for the predictions league, we're going to see Mr. Efficiency taking the weekly with 53, tied for first, but also the overall leaderboard as well with 228.
And there you have it, the Fantasy Awards as well. Congrats to everyone on making those beautiful standings. And not only for the Fantasy League, also obviously for the normal weekly awards. Since we saw some players getting multiple awards this week, some players tying with the first one actually. So a lot of big results happening here and there. Yeah, that's it. We're here slowly reaching the end of RSCast. Stingray, Buddha, do you guys have any final thoughts?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to the last week of League Play and deciding who makes top 6 or who makes top 3 or who gets the first place in all those first versus second matchups who we hopefully see on stream a few of them. I, unfortunately, am not there as Arch last week and can show off any merch because I don't have a camera, but I'll give it to you for the sponsors.
Well, Buddha, you have any final thoughts before we go there?
As always, just a thank you to everyone in the chat. We appreciate you coming out. Obviously, we're not here to watch Rocket League. We're here to talk about Rocket League and see, a few clips and a fail here and there. But just a thank you again to everyone in the chat. And it is the final week of League Play. So for the stream games, I'm sure they're going to be beautiful to watch. So make sure you get along for those, as I'm sure it's going to be probably a lot of first versus second matchups and a lot of crucial games. So make sure you tune in for those. And again, just thank you. Yeah, it's the final week of League Play. This is it. Make it or break it for some of these teams.
Yeah, you two said it there perfectly. Final week of League Play. But obviously, we couldn't make RSC happen without all our beautiful sponsors. Gamers Beat, Cancer, and Panthera Esports for making it all the tournaments possible. Gamers Apparel for all the beautiful merch that we have. Badass for helping out with all the graphics. Synthesize Design, Brick and Break also helping out. And obviously, the biggest one that we have, Rule 1, helping out immensely here with prize pool and a couple other things behind the screens. And, make sure to follow us all on our socials. It's at RSC_EU everywhere, so it's pretty easy to find. And, for our big sponsor, obviously Rule 1, they're also playing the Boston Major. I think most knew it. And it could be fun to watch, so maybe we'll see some